Answer.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this hour of the Shaun Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all guns. I love it, property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
My next guest is somebody I have enjoyed reading. Very, very smart. I believe he has a master's from Northwestern. And he didn't have to take any sex classes because he got that later after his academic career. He is the public engagement manager at the Illinois Policy Institute. It's a very fortuitous time to talk to our next guest as Illinois passes $56,000 million budget. He is Dylan Sharkey. Dylan, how are you?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Very interesting. You know what's interesting about this whole budget is it hides the fact that the federal government gives $42.9 billion to Illinois, and it gives $42.9 million or billion dollars because it says it's reimbursing them for entitlements. And I have to tell you something, Dylan. I'm suspicious. I can't help it. I was born that way. I didn't even like taking a binky from anybody. I was very suspicious. When you think about it, it could be that the budget increased to hide the fact that that number from the federal government has never been greater. The federal government sends to Illinois $42.9 billion for Medicaid, which the illegal aliens get. The bulk of that transfer is social services, food stamps. I mean, it could be that Illinois is a welfare state to the tune of 60% of its budget, couldn't it?
Yeah, the process for them getting this budget is anything but transparent. Lawmakers are up until 4:30 in the morning. It reminds me of like college students who are cramming before a final exam, but instead of a chemistry class, it's $56 billion with $800 million in new tax hikes. And they do other things. They have time. There's other things they get to, like the day before, 2 days before, they passed a resolution declaring May 6th as Bacon Day in Illinois. I'm not anti-bacon, but I think there's just the flipped priorities there.
Well, Dylan, you can't win friends with salad. When you look at this entire aspect of what they actually achieve, what do they do for the rest of the 69 days? Because on average, they work 70 days a year. When you count their per diem, their reimbursement for gas and mileage on their cars, it's $128,000 a year for the representatives when the median income among single households where one person works is $43,493. I'm telling you, this to me is a backdoor Soviet state. This is a financial crime, and they're hiding the fact that they have no budget. They exist on loans, on high interest payments, and on welfare from the federal government. And if they don't, prove us wrong. Show me the numbers. Where is the bulk revenue in Illinois? Because I've witnessed, seven major businesses over 100 years, huge corporations. Get the hell out of there. Am I missing something?
In this new budget, there's even new sources of revenue that might fall through. I'll give you an example. The social media fee. They want to tax companies that have more than 100,000 users in Illinois with a monthly fee for each user, depending on the platform size. Obviously, YouTube, Facebook, talking lots and lots of people, lots of accounts. And they're banking on about $200 million a year from that alone. But there's been legal challenges in other states of a similar tax that have fallen through, gotten tied up in court. So if that happens in this case, if it doesn't survive, then you are, short another couple $100 million you have to go back to the drawing board for.
Well, the way in which they concoct this is a financial fraud in the first place. There is no company, no business, no prospectus in the country that could possibly get a loan or become a publicly traded company by projecting what revenue should be on the if-come of what they hope it'll be. And when you look at the way in which they concoct this, has any one of them, and I'm serious when I say this, has any one of them ever really run a business? Now, I know like Darren Bailey inherited the farm and was taught how to fill up loan payments and loan paperwork. But has anybody ever really built a business? And if so, does that account for the 3 Republicans screaming their head off to no avail?
Yeah, there's clearly a disconnect. You brought up the cost of living for the average person. That's not. It doesn't feel that way when you hear lawmakers talk about revenue and all this ways they're creative with getting more money, but they're never creative about spending. Going back to that social media fee, I think that was a politically strategic way to penalize young people, especially because they use social media the most. I mean, and that fee, that's for one company. So if you have, YouTube, Facebook, other companies, if you have 5 or 6, those will stack up, even if it's a small fee. And since younger people use that the most, and they vote the least, politically, it's of little consequence because, I'm going to, upset people who aren't voting for me. Those are the people that I'm least concerned about in the short term.
Well, they do it because they can get the provider to perpetrate the extortion in the same way Xfinity does. To see it, Dylan, to see it in real life and to pay it in real life. Xfinity with Comcast and just like a basic HBO, whatever, in Illinois with the high-speed internet per house in my neighborhood, my old neighborhood, and I know because I pretty much gave everything to people I love, that's $300 a month. My same package in Florida, same package, is $80. So when you look at the fact they've turned Xfinity into the extortionists, they've turned the cell phone companies into the extortionists, they turned their gas stations into the extortionists. In that process has to be some pliability for people to seek rescue, because how in the world can they turn these companies into their tax collectors, right? This is what you know when you operate a retail business. You really manage the business. You have to sit down every month and send money to Springfield and the rest of it. They get an entire tax body. But these companies that are providing these services that they think they're going to tax, they have an alternative. They could just shut off the services to Illinois, can't they?
Yeah, and lawmakers are very strategic in the way they move around money. For instance, gas taxes. Gas tax money is supposed to go to fixing the roads. That's what we've always heard. But they have billions in dollars right now in collected gas tax money that's just not being spent on fixing the roads. There have been surveys on road qualities. It has improved. It's lower than it was in 2015. So you're talking years and years of getting extra money from when Governor Dave Pritzker doubled the gas tax in 2019. It's been a few years since then. I wouldn't expect it to be better in a year because those projects take a long time, but it's been a few years since then, and people aren't seeing better results on the road, but they're seeing way higher prices at the pump, and gas taxes are a huge part of that.
No, I mean, what they do on the roads, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I drive a lot. I drove again. I've been back and forth for years. You see traffic cones, but you rarely see work. Has there been a study done on how long it takes the Illinois roads to be repaired? Or is it just an illusion of cones? I don't see much work being done. But then again, you're living in a city for the Jane Byrne exit ramp, which was drawn by an 8-year-old who had an attention deficit disorder. What did that take? 3 times as long as the English Tunnel, didn't it?
Long periods of time. Even patience is a virtue, but that's pushing the envelope to say the least. I will say there's a bit of good news on that they are suspending the gas tax hike this year, come July 1st, which is good. Things could always be worse. We're already paying the second highest gas taxes in the country, and we have a sales tax on our gas on top of that. So when gas prices go up everywhere, it hurts people more here than it does in other parts of the country.
Well, it's the abused housewife syndrome, right? The abused housewife. She gets used to getting slapped 3 times a night. On the night her husband only slaps her twice, she thanks him. That's what this is, right? Because when you look at the levels in which gas is already taxed, the Illinois state government makes 300 or 600%, depending on how you count the taxes, more than the refineries make. Has there been no talk of any legal consequence of double and triple and quadruple taxation when you talk to this idea of gas? Because I believe it's an incredible slush fund that they really aren't showing us exactly how they collect it, let alone what they do with it, as you were talking about roads and the rest of it. When you look at the Illinois toll system, I mean, everybody knows this is the greatest scam outside of O'Hare Airport is the Illinois toll system and the taxing body that does it and the people who work there. Has there ever been any forensic audit by somebody who is not sworn to omerta by the Illinois Democrats? Has the federal government ever really looked at these leviathans of abuse on the honest Illinoisan?
Well, as you brought up on the first point, one of the reasons it's so hard is the lack of transparency, especially on the budget process when they do these things. A case in point, like today, they did it in the middle of the night. It was very quick turnaround, so you have, oftentimes only like less than a day just for someone to see the entire budget before it passed, and by the time it's passed, that's already too late.
Now that we know that the Illinois state rep makes 300% more than the average Illinois single-family household, median family household, and when you factor in what the revenue is, right? I always have had a problem, Dylan, and you tell me if my math is wrong. I did not go to Northwestern, and I say that I mean it. I think people who go there and graduate are very, very smart. But I also think they're very, very gullible in this aspect. How can somebody who makes all of their money from government and the cost of government ever be a taxpayer? That's
right. Yeah, I mean, because it's garbage in, garbage out as far as the resources people are getting, and they're not seeing better services.
I mean, I think these guys should really consider giving themselves $1.2 million a year. It doesn't matter. None of them are taxpayers. None of them ever pay for anything.
Yeah, I will say, one other storyline of this is what didn't happen over the weekend of the budget, and that was a deal for the Bears. Now, I will say, regardless of what would have happened had they actually gone through with something, it's fortunate they didn't rush a deal the way they do with other budgets, because we know they've done that plenty of times. Last minute, lawmakers don't even read every page of the thing they're passing through, and
how many can read?
Shoulder the burden.
Yeah. I mean, have we done a study? Yeah. I'm dead serious. Illinois is one of the highest states with functioning illiterate people. Did you know that? I mean, you look at the results.
Even if you're the best reader, they do it in a day. You got to read 4,000 pages.
I'm going to say 50% can't read. So I'm hoping that do they put it through their chat GBT? Are they using AI? Because if we could only get AI reps, we would save a ton of money with liabilities, costs, and pensions, and they could read. At a certain point, when you see this talk of the Bears, the premise is the problem. I mean, it's not just because I don't care. I mean, I don't think people who are adults should be watching sports to this level of insanity anyway, let alone taxing everybody across the board who has no interest in it. It seems to be an abuse of any taxing power or taxing body. And I think it would be a great benefit to the people of Illinois if the Bears moved to Indiana. But do you think it's just such a popular browbeat point that people will be more than happy to see them cut some sort of deal, knowing full well that the property taxes under J.B. Pritzker have risen 33% on average? 33%. The highest property taxes in the country now is Illinois. I learned that from your outlet.
Right, yes. And again, 33% higher for the same or worse services. If it was 30% higher and it was 30% better, that's one thing. You're at least getting more for your dollar, but people aren't seeing that. And it's good to see that they probably will come back over the summer, if I had to guess, for a special session. Even though lawmakers have gone home, they can call a special session for this Bears deal in a few weeks or a few months. So it's possible that this is a to be continued, and not like a issue put to rest.
So now that I know how smart you are, and I know how smart so many people how smart so many candidates were that are no longer candidates. What is the prediction with this massive increase in taxes? $800 million without a lot of specificity, and they're going to raise it on everybody, and everybody's got kids, and they say they stay for their kids. Do you think that maybe they went a little bit too far when they decided to attack what kids use the most, social media outlets? Because once the kids understand that these companies are going to stop offering this service, or that their mother and daddy are going to go broke paying it, the kids will be the first ones to say, let's get the hell out of here. Do you think that they've put together a proper forecast on exactly how many people are going to move in the event of all these taxes really kicking in?
No, I think it's a spreadsheet then. At the end of the day, when they're in Springfield, they see numbers on a sheet of paper, and what that translates to is people I've known personally who grew up here, whose parents are here, and have made the decision to move to a different state with no expectation of ever coming back because of finances more than anything. And how can you argue with it?
Well, and the other side is when you look at the fact that Illinois is the leading state with the most counties that have ever voted for secession since the Civil War. Counties, 33 counties, I believe it is, it might be 36 by now, have voted and passed that they want secession. Indiana is not only going after the Bears, rightfully so, they're giving an outlet to the people who are persecuted under the Chicago Mafia Democrats. And they said, we'll take them. What would it take? Now, I understand there might be some ambiguity into what Pritzker's power is, but he is clearly a mafia tyrant. Can the federal government save those counties and really truly do what I hope they can do and completely redraw not just the Illinois map, but the American map? I know you're just the Illinois policy. However, this is a very interesting thing. And is there any scuttlebutt, aside from those 33 counties who have voted and recorded that they want to get the hell out of Illinois without selling their property? Is there any hope for the federal government to rewrite the Illinois map?
I think the hope for those parts of Illinois that feel left out is to take map-making powers out of lawmakers' hands. And that would apply to Congress, too, because they draw up those maps as well. If you take it out of their hands and then our districts stop looking like shoelaces that have just been in the blender, then people would start to see more representation, and that would make life a lot easier.
So it could be that this is really quite an exciting time, because this kind of corruption, this kind of failure, this kind of inept attempt to govern and represent people, it's undeniable. It's never been more obvious that these are self-enriching, self-aggrandizing frauds. And this might be exactly what was needed for the federal government to say, you know what, we're going to take a real hard look at not just Illinois, but all of it. And we're going to really make a decision of if we're going to allow these states to be drawn up with their ambiguity that they were created with, when you have this many people who are really taking the benefit of democracy and voting against totalitarian corruption of the Chicago Democrat pretending to be the Illinois state government. This could be the precipice and the threshold of a real big change in America. And we've got just the right guy in Washington to do it, don't we?
I think Governor Pritzker, should more than anything, should lead the initiative like he did when he was a candidate. He seemed to have forgotten about that when he was running for office, or, a candidate the first time. I should say he's still a candidate now that he's running for another term. But back then, he was all about fair maps. He said he would veto any partisan-drawn maps, which he ended up not doing twice on two different occasions because they threw one out because it was illegal, so they had to go back. And he did it again, so he doubled down on it. But I would say there's still time for him to do it. Lawmakers can do it well before the census.
There's two problems with that, Dylan. Number one, the Democrats who are financed by the property and taxes of the decent people will never secede. They never want to. They know they cannot exist on their own, so they won't do that. And if a Democrat's lips are moving, it's a lie, lie, lie. Come on, didn't you learn that at Northwestern? You're not married to a Democrat, are you?
No, not married, period. But, yeah.
Yes. You take this into advice, and if a woman is willing to kill her own baby, she don't give a rip about her husband. You put that in the book, will you, kid?
Well, on the political maps, I think Governor Pritzker should really keep that in mind in the next year. He's talking about federal issues all the time because his name ID is not as high as other governors. It seems to me like he has intentions of running for the White House at some point. So that's part of the other reason you see him talking about all sorts of issues is because he's hoping to shoot for a promotion, but he got to get better at the job period.
He's got a big problem. Pritzker is Yiddish for punchline, and among the decent people in this country, J.B. Pritzker and the Pritzker family are a punchline. And if you could ever find out how many times Tom Pritzker went to Zorro Ranch, could you let me know there, Dylan Sharkey?
Well, if people are more interested in checking out our budget solutions, please, IllinoisPolicy.org is free, no paywall.
The best site in town, and I love you because you're smart and you're brilliant and you do this work and you do not charge, which means you're terrible capitalist, but I love the fact you're giving this information. So thank you very much, Dylan Sharkey.
Yep, of course. Happy to do it.
You too. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
This is the Shaun Thompson Show, where Democrats are always wrong, Republicans are seldom right, and politicians are never, ever to be trusted. On AM 560, The Answer.